But if we go back, just 60, 70 years,
Mm-hmm.
you think about how the school system, really supported families.
Yeah.
They worked with parents for the good of their children. So you look at what was happening just a few decades ago that supported these values. So
Mm-hmm.
now, the way to kind of where the government can help support that would be, how do we now got to restructure our education system? We have
Mm-hmm.
to restructure the textbooks, or reorient the textbooks in a
Mm-hmm.
way that doesn't, diminish family life, or mock family life. But we have to also go back what you said too, and that marriage is between one man and one woman.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so, but this is where, again, the transformation would be radical from the government's point of
Oh,
view.
for sure.
Just
Yeah.
United States, for example,
I guess that's kind of where I'm like, what I'm wrestling with right now is, it's like, on the one hand, I understand what you're saying of like the government can't fix this problem. On the other hand, it seems like if the government really set its mind to it,
right,
it could help at least like support and incentivize those first principles of
right,
like man and a woman in marriage,
right.
getting married and having multiple kids.
Right. But where do those values really originate? And that, if we think about our
Yeah.
Judeo Christian root. And so, I
It
mean,
wasn't the
as we saw with
government.
Pope Benedict and John Paul II, really, condemning the mindset of Europe that rejected Western civilization, and the whole understanding of Christianity, and
Mm-hmm.
how it played a strong role in the development of Europe, and it basically just ignoring its root. And here, in the United States, where right now we fight against, religion, and the freedom to exercise that religion. And so we're pushing against the very source that actually fosters within the structure these core values within the families, and where not only fidelity and exclusivity and monogamy and purity and chastity and all these things
Mm-hmm.
are learned, but the government's been pushing against that completely. And so the way the government can help, here would be to support, the faith communities, to be able to instill these values and to be able to advance those values, and for
Mm-hmm.
government to stop working against these values
Mm-hmm.
and undermining these values. And, the whole idea of divorce is another example, that really has caused great harm.
Mm-hmm.
How can we reevaluate that? And how do we restructure the mindset of what it means to be faithful to one another for a lifetime? And so,
So, so basically, the government needs to stop trying to like smother the family and tear it down, and then create a structure that like supports the family. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of like the tomato vine climbing through like the metal structure. It's like the
mhm.
government needs to be the like metal structure so that the vine of the family can
Well,
actually like grow and be
I
supported.
think that the idea is we give too much emphasis to government. It's not the
Yeah.
role of government, and so, and I think this is the problem. This is where the problem started, because we've
Okay.
given over ourselves to government. I mean, parents, and we talked about this before, gave over to local government the education of their children. Well, the government's not the educator of their child. The parents are the educator of the child. The government is there to offer incentive and help and assistance. But we've kind of given over our own
Hmm.
responsibilities. So we shouldn't be looking to government. The principle of subsidiarity works very beautifully here. And, in understanding, the primary cell upon which society is built is the family.
Hmm.
And that is where the remedy has always been. And why, from a spiritual level, so I know we didn't want to get too down that road, but the idea is that's why Satan assaults the family so
Hmm.
aggressively, because he also understands that undermine the family and you undermine all these other values. And
Okay.
so you just strip them, because you remove the ability of the family to shape and to create a culture, what we call the domestic church, right? And so government is not ever going to be the remedy here. And it could also have not been the problem if it had kept its proper place. And so government intruded, and it placed
Hmm.
itself in a higher position of responsibility that it did not own and did not have a right to. And so this is where, again, we shouldn't be looking to the government to solve our problem. And what we should be looking to is, how do we re-engage the conversation, recreate the narrative that truly has guided many a civilization throughout the centuries. And we can look back at history and know that when we undermine the family, when we
Hmm.
turn in, like you said, we become self-centered, selfish. That's the undermining. That's what that pulls the Moors up and basically destroys the civilization.
So what is the solution then? Because I think that people turn to the government because they see a widespread issue that's going to have serious economic, social
Right.
consequences that is so broad that just like changing your own family and doing things within your family seems like a really small, like, drop of water in a big ocean.
Right.
So what is the remedy if it's not supposed to be the government trying to step in?
So government has a valid role to play, a very important role to play, and that is when self-governance. We as a community come together and we might elect someone to oversee how to handle these various things. We might even choose to tax ourselves so that
Mhm.
we have money to be able to get the grass cut, make sure the roads are paved, make sure the power plant works, make sure that the
Mhm.
sewer plant is doing its job. So we do that is self-governance.
Mhm.
We do this so that we can better the community we call the common good. Now we have a common good involved.
Yeah.
So government, so I want us to walk away from the podcast, for people to think, oh, we're anti-government by any means, by no means.
Mm-mm.
The role of government has a valid and legitimate place to play, but it should never supplant the primary and fundamental unit that builds our society, and that is the family. And so here is where government should be working for that good, supporting that good, defending that good. And what's happened is we've allowed a plurality of ideologies to creep in here. And what's happened is that we've allowed all these things to become legitimate, almost since
Mhm.
a right to. But but in reality, it's all worked against the fundamental unit. So
Mhm.
when we allow the breakdown of the family, and we can obviously there are many reasons why that occurs, but society had a vested government had a vested interest in the fidelity and exclusivity of marriage. And
Mhm.
history has shown that. There's a reason why that's so important. And from that exclusive and faithful union, then you can build a culture where children are raised in a safe home, a family, where they learn these core values and they're able to grow, as a way of seeing what's my contribution to the common good, what's my contribution, because family's not about me, it's
Mhm.
about us. And so the family plays a very key role in this, whether that person be whatever religious background. There are core values that guide those religions and
Mhm.
guide the people of faith and how to exercise that. And so, and in all of them, and we know because we know the history, we know what happened in 1930. All right. And so, and our audience, if they don't know, they can just go type in 1930 and they'll pick up a subject that we've talked about many times. In our country, when was divorce legalized?
Mhm.
When did we legalize the use of contraception? When did we legalize abortion? And what are we doing? We're legalizing euthanasia. So we're actually, in every act of doing this, we're breaking the links
Mhm.
of a husband and wife to each other, a husband and wife to their children, the children and the husband and wife to the grandparents to the children and the parents. It's all links, it's all chains that link
Yeah.
everyone together. And when you start doing these things, you're breaking those links. And if you break the link, then someone else fills the gap. And isn't that exactly what government has done? It's
Mhm.
come in and promoted, in this situation, a propaganda that was false. It was started on a false premise, and it's now been proven how false it is. And look at the damage now that is being done across this planet.